Hello, this is Matthew Robert Payne, and this is Tolu Sarah Johnson, and this is the book that we've been doing, Reframe Heaven, and this is chapter 34, the second last chapter, and I'll pass you over to Tolu, to Tolu,
Tolu. Oh my
Tolu,
God.
Tolu.
It's not Tulu. It's your friend that always called me Tolu. But I am Tolu. Not even Tolu. I am Tolu. That's it. That's how you pronounce it in Nigeria. So this is where you realize you were always known. That's what chapter 35 is all 34 about. 34 is all about. Not introduced, but already recognized. I don't know where this idea of this title came from, that this is where you realize you've always been known. Maybe this chapter is trying to educate us that it's possible for you to think when you get to heaven, people will not recognize you or God will not recognize you. And that might be a surprise, but that shouldn't be a surprise because heaven is where you came from originally. And the hope is for us to go back to heaven. And it's not that you finally see God. It doesn't necessarily mean that because you are in heaven, you will see God. But it is the realization that God always saw you. God knows you, not partially, not occasionally, not from a distance. He knows you completely. And most people will imagine arrival to heaven as entering an unfamiliar world, a place where they must be introduced, explained, presented. But heaven does not respond to you like a stranger. That's what I've come to learn from all these conversations that we've been having with heaven for over 2.5 years. It responds like family, like someone whose story was already known long before arrival. Even you're welcome. I believe everyone has got a welcome party. Matthew can expatiate on that. You were never unknown to God. Before your body formed, before your name was spoken on the earth, before your first breath, you already existed within his awareness, within his heart, within eternity itself. I may not be able to specifically pinpoint how you existed, but you already existed. God already knew you. And you were not fashioned for connection, not randomly placed into existence, and you were not accidentally born into time. You're intentionally known. And I've come across people that they look at the story of their life because they were born in a fashion that they thought was a mistake, because the parent might say this was a mistake. Just like that's Matthew. Always think Matthew was a mistake, but Matthew wasn't a mistake. God wanted him to be on that planet Earth, and he would do whatever he needs to do. I've heard of so many families that do family planning, different measures of not getting pregnant. And what happens? The baby brings it out as they're delivering. As I knew a lady that I really know very well when I used to be in uni. She said her third baby, she did this family planning contraceptive, which we call copper T. So it's like a shape of a T. They put it in your womb to blow, and the baby just brought when the baby was born and they opened the end of the baby, they saw the family planning thing in there. So the family planning was there to ensure that the pregnancy doesn't happen, but it happened anyway. So that means that God is the one in charge. And some have been born as a result of rape. They think they were here by mistake. No, no one is here by mistake at all. And this is why there's always been something inside you searching for more than heart could explain. Because every one of us, we're always searching for a truth. Because part of you has always carried the memory that you came from somewhere deeper. And God's knowledge of you is not vague, it is exact. Every joy, every hidden sorrow, every silent breakdown, every question you never voiced, every fear you buried beneath strength, none of it escaped him. Not because he was collecting information, but because he was present within it. Even the smallest details matter to him, not symbolically, personally. And that's something that I'm so grateful to God for. Because when we go through our pain, we always think that we are on our own, that God does not care about how you feel, about what is going on in your life. But so many times that God is sad. Why is he sad? Because his children are suffering. And a lot of time I say, God, I just want you to be happy. And God say, whose parent is going to be happy when your child is suffering? I won't be happy to see my children suffering. So how much more God? So how do you think that all the pain, especially young people that have gone through sexual molestation and they've cried unto God, like God saved me, and you still say, and you still was locked in into that relationship that you didn't want for maybe 16 years of your life. You were trapped. You didn't know how to get out of that trap, and you were praying to God, and it seems as if God did not answer. God saw your prayers. He heard everything, but sometimes there's nothing God can do because there's free will as well. So it's all messed up sometimes. It is really, really messed up. There's no straightforward answer. Because before I used to think, God, why can't you, your almighty God, your supreme God, you could make something happen even wherever it seems impossible? And what about what that experience as well that came your life? I know it's not accidental. God can still use it to glorify himself and let our future. Just like Joyce Meyer talks about her stories of what she went through, God uses it as testimony now to bless other people's life. So, irrespective of the path or the journey that you've gone through, you might think God has forgotten you. No, God is present in everything. Even the smallest details matters to him. And when scripture says he knows the numbers of your ears on your head, like how can I know the number of my hair? Strand one by one. I couldn't. But the Bible says God knows the number of your hair. That enough is revealing. The precision of his attention is on point. So nothing about you has ever been insignificant to him. And when I look at my story, the story of my life, and look at the journey, the steps, the stages of my life that I've gone through, the phases of my life I've gone through, I can look back and always see a reason to glorify God. Today, I picked one of my books, which I wrote. Maybe last year, which is There's Beauty in Suffering. And what really made me to pick it was because I messaged somebody who always speak to me or contact me on Facebook, who has been one of our followers, has been reading our books, and he really loves the analogy, the father's analogy that I wrote, and he was following reading those books. So he messaged me to say, thank you, Tolu. I really enjoy reading that book. And messaged me recently that he's got an operation on Friday. Tomorrow, no, next tomorrow, I should pray for him because he's really scared and everything like that. And I responded back, one of the conversation, I responded back that because initially before he told me about the operation, he told me that he's going through so much and it seems as if God has let him down or something like that. So I said, go read this book. There's two books I wrote on suffering. There's Beauty in Suffering, and the other one, I can't remember the title. So I sent the link. And then he responded back yesterday. I read it this morning that when he was reading There's Beauty in Suffering, that really made him cry. So I went back to pick the book. I'm like, let me go read the book because I've even forgotten what I wrote in the book. And as I was reading it, like even me myself was very tearful. But that was my experience. That was what I did go through. That was what my husband did go through. I touched on Matthew's life as well in that chapter, and it was quite emotional. But you are not the only one that's had to suffer. There's so many people in this world that had to go through their own different path. But nothing is insignificant before God. And because God exists beyond time, He is not only aware of your past, He is already present even in your future. I remember 2 years ago when I was being encouraged by Evan to write books, and Ben was like, Oh, yes, I've seen you. You're going to write many books. I was thinking, you must be kidding. What future are you seeing that is that I am going to write book? I'm not interested in writing books. But I was sitting down and I was meditating. I'm like, wow, what Ben said actually was true. They've seen my future. So there's a future that I don't know now. God has already seen that future. But we walk blindly. We walk by faith. We don't, and there's some things God doesn't know as well, that He walks blindly as well into the future. He trusts the Holy Spirit. The days you are afraid of, the moment you think will break you, the seasons you cannot yet understand, He's already there. And what feels uncertain to you has never been uncertain to Him. And you were never walking alone, even when it felt like it. So there's always been a heavenly audience. There's always been the cloud of witnesses. There's always been the saints, the one who cross over before you, watching, praying, cheering you, and observing your becoming. And that's so beautiful because I know my husband is observing my becoming. He knows what I will become next year or 2 years ahead, but of course, he's not going to tell me, because what's the point? If he's told me, there's no point. So he's observing your becoming. Matthew's parents are watching down from heaven, observing what he is becoming. And not obsessed. He's not obsessed with your failures. God does not, like, to be candid, he doesn't even see them as failures. He sees them like a child that is wobbling, trying to walk, and he studies you. So it's so beautiful, because the way we see failure is not the way that God sees failure. And is aware of your destiny, aware of what you carry, aware of what your life was forming. So you were never someone that arrives to heaven and it's like they're seeing you for the first time. No, your story was never unfolding in isolation. God already sees them. Although God said something in the past, He said, you could surprise me. You could surprise me in a good way or in a bad way. In a good way, like you could surpass what I thought you're capable of doing. Oh, you could be so evil and be another child I've not created. So there's still room for God to be surprised about our future. So this is why many arrive in heaven already recognized. Their story preceded them. Their journey was already known. So you are not known as a number. For so long, I thought I was just a number. I was born in a very small town in Nigeria. I lived in a town that electricity keeps on going every time. I even forgot what electricity was all about. When I start counting, I just thought in that moment, God has forgotten about me. And then you begin to see that you're not just one life among billions. He recognizes every of his children. How does he do it? I don't know. You are known by name. He knows you personally. He knows you intimately. And the shepherd does not merely know about his sheep, he knows them. And when I say he knows them, he knows you. I'm talking from my own experience. He understands the pain behind your reactions, the trauma behind your decisions, the loneliness behind your silence, and even the part you never explain to anyone else. Of course, we all have the part we don't explain to anyone else, because no one else can understand that. That part of my life that Matthew is not aware of, because even if I tell Matthew is either looking for solution immediately as you're speaking to him, he's forgotten that you just wanted him to be the sounding board, just to listen. Immediately, so already find the solution. I'm like, I do not bloody want solution about it, because you don't have the solution. Just listen. So he knows it, and he's willing to listen to you. For this past 2.5 years, like the saint keeps saying, and telepathic communication. I dislike the telepathy wherever. But in this last 1 week, I've grown immensely in that space. And that is because for some reason, I find the reason to grow that relationship. I find joy. And it's like, now I'm excited speaking to God, speaking to my husband. It's so exciting. But Matthew emphasized that for a long time, but I couldn't see any reason.
But you wouldn't listen.
No, I wouldn't listen. But there are reasons now where I listen. There are things that propel me now. Like sometimes I need something to happen for me to put my energy into something. So, and so also Matthew, I've always told him to create Google Docs for long. And Matthew will say, tell you, I'm just not good at technology. But my friend created it without even asking me for explanation. I don't know how he did it. Maybe he watched YouTube, but he did it. And I was so surprised. So what Matthew did not want to do, he's doing. What I don't want to do, I'm doing as well. So we're both growing in different areas of our life. So nothing about you has ever been misunderstood by him. And that's what I've come to understand. Like I will tell him things. It may be about an individual that is trying to turn from female to male or male to female, and I think God is going to condemn and God will say, oh, Tolu, I understand their pain. I'm like, God, that's not what I'm expecting you to say. How do you understand the pain? So now God has taught me to be so empathetic, to be so compassionate towards people now that, to be candid, I will find it difficult to judge now or to point fingers at someone because I don't know their journey. And I think it's so evil to judge people without knowing where they're coming from. After knowing all of this and sitting at the feet of God for this long now, I think I don't have any reason to be pointing fingers at anyone ever again. And perhaps one of the deepest healing is realizing you were never a mistake. Once you know that, I don't know whether that really haunts Matthew, because of course his dad said it, I don't know, maybe one time or two times to him, like, you were only 2 minutes of pleasure. Is that what he says?
Yeah, and 18 years of trouble.
Because Matthew is really a trouble child. So I can imagine it must have frustrated his father to say that. So not your existence was a mistake, not your life, not your placement on earth. It's a mistake. Sometimes I wonder, how do God decide the family He sends you to? Some are sent into abject poverty, and some are sent into wealth. And you be like, God, what basis do you look at? Some are born in a country that is ruined by poverty. What will you do? No, you just have to accept that your placement, He knows it. And He knows why He's placed you where He's placed you. So no matter how painful your beginning was, no matter the circumstances surrounding your birth, no matter how unwanted you may have felt, you were intentionally known before anyone else recognized you. And when God says He wants to know you, He's not speaking from lack of information. He already knows everything about you. What He desires is relationship, conversation, friendship, exchange, not performance, not religious presentation. He wants your actual heart, your real thought, your genuine feelings. Not because He needs information, but because love desires closeness. So this changes everything, because it means you're not spending your life trying to become visible to heaven. You already are. You are not waiting to be recognized. You have been recognized all along. And when you finally arrive, it will not feel like entering an unfamiliar place. It will feel like coming home to a presence that knew you before you ever knew yourself. So I hope this gives you a sense of comfort that you do not just arrive to heaven alone. They know your taste. Like, if whatever they prepare for you, your house, your accommodation, I don't know every other thing that is prepared, but I know for sure your house, a lot of time is tailored to your needs. So don't you think they knew you before they prepared those rewards for you? Of course, they know you. And a lot of people have always said it. When I got to my house, it's exactly how I wanted it. So that means you are well known to little intricate of your life, and God honors that. So I want you to know that you came from heaven. You might have not known, you must lost track of how you got here, because we didn't know. I wasn't aware when I was in my mother's womb. I was only aware when I became an adult. I started becoming aware of who I am. And through these conversations with Evan has really helped me to solidify that I am not here by mistake. But when you look at your story of your life, it's easy for you to conclude that I'm one of a billion. God could care less about me. How is he going to see me? Even if I cry unto him, how is he going to hear my cry? I want you to know that he cares about you and you already know. So I hope you've been blessed. I'll pass you back to Matthew.
Okay, so everyone, when they arrive in heaven, Tolu was talking about this. Everyone has a welcoming team. Jesus welcomes everybody to heaven. And I think he does that because he has multiple bodies, which is really Jesus. And he'll take you, he'll meet you with a relative or someone that you know. They'll take you to your house and you celebrate from between 2 heavenly days to about 5 heavenly days, depending on how popular you are, depending on how much work you did for the kingdom. So not only will Jesus be there and maybe God, but also your relatives, people you love, people you admire. And then, if you were really fascinated with the book of Isaiah, or you really are fascinated with Paul's writings, Isaiah will be there and Paul will be there. And you may, depending on how much you know of the book of Isaiah, if you know many chapters of Isaiah, Isaiah may sit down with you and explain the chapters that you actually know and give you feedback on how he wrote it, what they actually mean, and when those verses were fulfilled and when they're going to be fulfilled in the future, if they're speaking of the future also. When you sit with Apostle Paul, he'll be able to describe the scriptures that he wrote, and you may have questions for him about certain scriptures. He'd be able to settle that for you. And depending on how spiritual you are, it'll depend on how many people from the Bible. But if you always had like a favorite person that you had in the Bible, you always liked a certain passage in the Bible, maybe the story of Jonah, there's a good chance Jonah will be in your welcoming party. So not only would Jonah be in your welcoming party, but also new friends, people that heaven knows that you'll get on well with and in your level. And we talked about different realms that you can appear in heaven and start in heaven. Perhaps your life qualified you for realm 4. There'll be people from realm 4 introducing themselves to you and saying that they'll be your friends. So also, there is a characteristic in heaven that you can walk down the street and look at someone and you can automatically know who they are. You can just get a sense, like a prophetic word of knowledge all about who that person is. So you're not a stranger in heaven. You can walk up to a person and they know things about you, and you can start a conversation. In a cafe, for instance, you can be seated there and looking around and telling things about certain people seated in the cafe, and it just helps for communication. On some level, that's exactly what Jesus had when he was on earth. He could look at people and know things about them and know their past and their current skills and their abilities and their giftings. Jesus had that ability on earth, and all of us, when we're in heaven, will have that ability too. Your parents know you, your relatives know you, the people that are allotted to you in heaven as friends will know you, and if you've put in work when it comes to Jesus, if you've put in work to develop intimacy with Jesus, then Jesus will know you at a great level. Like There is that verse in Matthew 7 where it says, "Depart from me, I never knew you." So there's certain people who at some stage might not make it to heaven based on that verse. But Jesus knows you if you've arrived in heaven. He knows who you are. He knows all about your life. There exist films in heaven. Someone like my father and mother were going to be heavily involved in my life as my cloud of witnesses, like people in heaven that are going to help you and tutor you and mentor you, become your witnesses, your cloud of witnesses. And they can play a film of your whole life, a film that might take 2 days to play every scene in your life or whatever, and they can sit and watch that, and that gives them a lot of perspective about who you are and what you've been through, and also they can play a film of your future for 2 days, and your relative, like your mum or your father or a prophet in heaven, someone who's going to be involved in your life, can find out your future and events that are going to happen in your life. And as you walk with those people in communication from heaven to earth, they'll be able to celebrate milestones in your life. They don't necessarily tell you the details of your future. I don't think that's particularly helpful for a person to know specific details of their future, but they do celebrate milestones with you, you know. And yeah, so you may think that when you get to heaven, no one will know you. And just the idea of walking down the streets of heaven and people saying hello to you and seemingly knowing you, there's something you'll possess, you'll have the ability, and other people will have the ability too.
Are you done, Matthew?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So to this chapter, it will be two people that will speak to this chapter. The first person will be my father, my earthly father. How were you welcomed to heaven?
I was welcomed by my parents. I was welcomed by people who I knew from the Muslim faith, and you might not necessarily know them, but I was welcomed by a leader in my country that had passed on. I was welcomed by Jesus, and he let me know that he loved me. And so there are special people in my faith that I admire that had passed on. And there was a writer that I followed that had passed on. So I I was made feel welcome by friends that heaven gave to me that worked out for me, and one of them was someone who was a Muslim that had become a Christian. So I related on that angle with him, but most of the people I was introduced to were practicing Muslims, and they were in heaven, and they acknowledged that their Allah was God, the God of the Christians, but they still were very much a Muslim in their flavour, and they became good friends, and are still good friends of mine, and we've developed, and together each of us have grown over the last few years as you've been doing these conversations and interviews with saints in heaven. We've been becoming more and more Christian in these years, but you can pretty much still hold to your Muslim tradition and your Muslim faith, even believing in the one true God.
Wow. So did you feel you were already known when you arrived?
Yeah, the friends that they allotted to me and my relatives and uh, the the famous writer and the politician from Nigeria knew me, and they'd been briefed on me, and it's like they already been told background on me, and that was impressive that someone that I admired as a writer would actually come to my homecoming, would come to my welcome, and he went on and became a friend. I was able to become close to him and the leader of the country that I'd known in the past. He's someone I can talk to, I can contact, but he's not every day. He's not in my life every day. But yeah, the people who uh, became friends knew things about me more than just casual looking across the road that Matthew mentioned before, knowing things about someone's past and their character. That they knew more than that about me. They'd been given like a brief about me. Um, the people who became my friends also had seen the film about my life
Wow.
and had seen my life in detail. So I was able to talk about my life, and they already knew most of what's happened. That's what's so handy about those films, that people can watch them and come to know you for who you really are, including everything you've been through.
Wow. Thank you. So Matthew, the second person is Steve Jobs.
Okay, so I was well known on Earth. People had passed on before I died, and they knew who I was. But what was best about heaven is meeting people and working with people who are allotted to serve you. There's a lot of technology that happens on Earth. There's a lot of new technology, and a lot of that technology is created in heaven before it comes to Earth, before technicians on Earth get the technology. And so I was allotted 100 and then 200 engineers to work with in heaven, and they all become really close friends. I had uh, like a spirit of perfection, and I was very rude on earth with staff and certain people. I had a reputation of not being a nice guy, and on earth I had a reputation of people crossing me and being excluded from being my friend anymore and being totally kicked out and treated not very nice. And heaven slowly transformed my character into a nicer person. And so I'm pleased to say that the 1 to 200 people that were allotted to me, the engineers, stayed with me, and
Wow.
none of them I upset to a point where they lost. But I used to lose engineers when I worked at Apple with my attitude. Um, so, uh, so yeah, I'm pleased heaven prepared for me, and um, a lot of what Charlie Kirk does in heaven, which is preparing teaching and preparing
Yeah.
resources for people to grow in heaven, like
Yeah.
the curriculum of the colleges and the universities in heaven and the theological colleges in heaven, all of that curriculum and material that they teach in the courses comes from Charlie Kirk. Well, the software and the stuff underneath there that prepares that has been
Yeah.
built by our teams. So,
Wow.
so it's like a God. It's not like God. It may be new to people hearing, but God knows the future, and He knows
Mm.
what's going to be needed in 2 years, or He knows what's going to be needed in 5 years, and He's constantly preparing us to prepare what's going to be used in the future.
Thank you. Wow. It's good to acknowledge that you were not so nice. Why you were not? Do you think you needed that to be successful?
Um, I was a bit like Michael Jackson, and I was a perfectionist, and maybe I was a bit too rough on people. People have said in biographies that I wasn't a nice person, and I have changed, and Jesus and the culture of heaven has transformed my personality. So you're not only known when you get to heaven, but you're known for the good parts and the bad parts, and heaven will come and bring the sanding paper and sand off your rough edges.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Thank you. Matthew, I'm going to be cheeky here. Jesus, what is it like welcoming people in heaven every heaven day?
Yeah, it's good. You can imagine there's a lot of people coming to heaven each day, so I've got
Yeah.
to bilocate and be in different places. But
Wow.
the difference between me doing that and Matthew doing that, being in heaven when he
Yeah.
sleeps, is that I remember everything I interact
Experience.
with people in one of
Wow.
my spare bodies. So nothing's wasted. So if I'm meeting 1,000 people on the same day, I remember the interactions I had with each of the 1,000 people. Uh, yeah, so that's the difference between me and someone else who may be like Matthew's got a number of people he knows in heaven, and he may be individually with each of those people, but he doesn't remember that.
No.
His spirit remembers it when he meets them again in his spirit. His spirit remembers, but his conscious spirit that's here on earth doesn't remember the interactions. Um,
Wow.
but I enjoy meeting. I enjoy welcoming people. I especially enjoy people who introduce uh, saying hello and welcoming people that weren't Christians, like
Oh,
an atheist or a witch or a Muslim, people who don't believe. Or Muslims believe they'll be in heaven, but a witch and an atheist probably don't get a surprise, and they can't relate to me as deep as maybe a Christian can. They don't
yeah.
know a lot about me, so I would just be like meeting a stranger to many of them. But over
Wow.
time, we can develop a good relationship. The atheists ask me a lot of good questions, and I encourage that. And uh, Matthew's heard other speakers, other saints say that when you have a conversation with me, 80% of the talking comes from the person and only 20% of the conversation comes from me. That's because I ask a lot of questions, and I ask a lot of questions about the answers that you give. And so some people, as they grow in spiritual depth,
Yeah.
get that back to 50-50. And I really appreciate the conversations that are 50-50, which means that the people are more engaging for me and more interesting for me to talk to.
Wow. Thank you, Jesus. So to close the chapter, you're not introduced to heaven, you are recognized by it. Not because you hand attention, but because you were always held within it. So just as Jesus has confirmed as well. So the shift is this: stop living as though you are unseen. Stop building an identity just to be accepted. Because a lot of us spend time on wanting people to accept us, wanting God to accept us. We're already accepted. You were already known before you arrived, already seen, already understood, already loved. Because heaven is not discovering you for the first time, it has been aware of your story all along. God bless.
God bless you, everybody.